For my father's 90th birthday, my husband leaned over and whispered, "We're leaving. Something is very, very wrong. Pack our things, take the children away. Now." Before I pull back the curtain on the strangest birthday party I've ever attended, let me ask you something, friends. Have you ever walked into a familiar place and felt, deep in your bones, that somebody swapped the script while you weren't looking? Drop your stories down in the comments. And if you're new here, hit subscribe so you don't miss a single twist, because the night you're about to hear still crawls across my skin whenever I smell vanilla sheet cake. My name is Lucille Carter, 67 years seasoned, and all too familiar with family drama. Still, nothing in 6 decades of Sunday dinners or holiday feuds prepared me for my father's 90th birthday. Daddy lives 3 hours away in rural Carolina, a clapboard farmhouse surrounded by pines and red clay. The trip is long, the Wi-Fi weak, and my grown kids prefer city lights to crickets. So when I insisted we drive down for his milestone, nobody exactly cheered. My husband, Harold, 69 former Army medic turned meticulous gardener, grumbled about icy back roads. Our son, Mark, and daughter, Cassandra, offered diplomatic shrugs, but I pressed. "We show up," I said. "There may not be a 91st. Guilt did the trick. We packed sweaters, carrot cake, and one reluctant attitude per passenger. We reached Daddy's place just past dusk. The gravel drive sparkled under string lights I'd never seen before, and cars, expensive, polished, unfamiliar, lined the pasture fence. Inside, the living room looked like Pinterest exploded. Gold balloons spelling 90, sterling silver punch bowls, linen napkins folded into roses. Gospel played softly from speakers Daddy didn't own. Stranger still were the guests. Cousin Rita and Deacon Miles I recognized, but the rest, barely familiar or downright unknown. A lanky man in an olive blazer greeted Harold by name, only I'd never laid eyes on him. A petite woman with hair like fresh snow hugged Cassandra, murmuring, "You've grown so tall," as if she'd watched her since kindergarten. The air smelled of sandalwood candles, not Daddy's usual cedar smoke. I searched for my father. He sat in an overstuffed chair at the far end of the dining room, half hidden behind floral arrangements. His smile was thin, eyes glassy. A young man, maybe late 20s, hovered at his elbow, lifting a cup to Daddy's lips. The man's polo bore a tiny embroidered crest I didn't recognize. Daddy nodded mechanically, gaze sliding past me when I waved. My stomach tightened. I brushed it off. Maybe these were friends from church outreach, caregivers, neighbors I hadn't met. I balanced a plate of baked brie and mystery hors d'oeuvres, trying to catch Mark's eye across the crowd, but he was deep in conversation with 2 women in matching pearl brooches I'd swear belonged on a 1990s cruise ship. Then a toast began, led by a silver-haired gentleman who called Daddy our patriarch, though I'd never heard Daddy mention him. Crystal flutes clinked. Daddy attempted a raised hand, but the same polo crest attendant guided it for him. That's when Harold leaned close, his breath warm against my ear. His words dropped like stones into my gut. "Lucy, grab your purse. We're leaving. Act natural. Something here is very, very wrong." I blinked. "It's fine, just folks we don't know," I whispered, forcing a smile for a passing waiter in black tie. Black tie on a farm. Harold's grip tightened on my elbow. "Don't argue," he said, eyes scanning the room like a medic sizing battlefield wounds. "These people aren't Daddy's friends." I followed his gaze. 2 men by the fireplace exchanged envelopes. A woman near the punch bowl slid a pill bottle into her clutch. An older couple whispered while photographing Daddy's antique grandfather clock. Each angle, multiple shots like appraisers cataloging assets. Gooseflesh rose on my arms. Keeping my face pleasantly blank, I gathered our coats and nodded to Cassandra and Mark. Snow's picking up, let's load gifts into the car, I sang, Sunday school sweet. The four of us threaded through a maze of strangers who smiled too hard and asked no questions as we exited. Once inside our SUV, Harold hit the locks before starting the engine. His jaw clenched so tight the dashboard lights cast shadows on his cheekbones. I saw a medic alert bracelet on your father's wrist, he said. Last checkup, he didn't need one. And that attendant? Wrong angle on the blood pressure cuff. He's no nurse. Harold's voice dropped. Lucy, they're staging something. Estate vultures, maybe worse. My pulse hammered. Daddy's caretaker is Miss Opal, not polo shirt strangers. Harold pulled onto the dark road. Call 911, he said. Say you suspect elder abuse in progress. 5 minutes later, with sirens promised and taillights shrinking behind us, dread settled heavier than the night sky. I realized I hadn't hugged Daddy. I hadn't even confirmed he recognized me. Blue lights painted the pines before we'd even turned back onto the county highway. 2 cruisers slid past us, tires whispering on frost, headed straight for Daddy's lane. I clenched my phone, dispatch still on the line, pulse thrumming in my ears. Behind me, Mark muttered a prayer while Cassandra stared out the window, lips moving silently. Half apology, half spell of protection. Harold eased the SUV onto the shoulder, killed the lights. If this is what I think, running won't help, he said. He spun the wheel, U-turned, and followed the squad cars at a cautious distance. Gravel crackled under our tires as we crept back toward the farmhouse. 2 more cruisers had arrived. Deputies fanned across the yard, flashlights slicing through party decor like search beam scissors. We parked near the mailbox, far enough to watch unseen. From the shadows, I saw officers speaking with the silver-haired toastmaster, now flustered, face flushed, his tuxedo jacket held like a shield. That attendant in the polo stood beside him, arms crossed, eyes sweeping for exits. The gathered guests clustered in nervous clumps. Gone was the easy laughter, replaced by tight whispers and darting glances. One deputy escorted Daddy onto the porch, blanket around his shoulders. I exhaled, only when he tilted his head toward the night sky, breathing crisp air like medicine. The young attendant tried to follow, but a sergeant blocked him, hand resting meaningfully on a holstered radio. Seconds later, Miss Opal, Daddy's real caretaker, emerged from the house. Cheeks tear-stained, wrists zip-tied, then quickly freed by another deputy. She spotted me by the fence, broke into sobs, and hurried over. "Lucille," she cried, "they said you'd signed off, said it was a surprise. They hired me off duty for kitchen prep, then told me to stay in the pantry." Her voice cracked. "Took my phone." Harold shot me a look. Estate vultures, maybe worse. An officer approached. "Ma'am, are you the caller?" I raised my hand. He took our names, glanced at my license, then nodded toward the porch. "Your father's okay, but shaken. EMS is checking vitals. We need statements." We stepped under the porch light. Daddy gripped my hand, eyes clearing. "Knew you'd come back?" he whispered, voice paper thin. I kissed his forehead and turned to the deputy. "Who are these people?" "Working on that," he said. "Preliminary check shows most aren't related. One claims to be an investment advisor, another a notary." We found blank power of attorney forms on the dining table, plus paperwork to transfer property into a charitable remainder trust none of our systems recognize. Mark's jaw dropped. They were stealing Grandpa's house at his own birthday? "Looks that way," the deputy replied. "Your call likely stopped a signing ceremony." Inside, the living room looked gutted. Silver punch bowls now evidence, balloons sagging under harsh flashlight beams. Deputies photographed the table where a fountain pen still rested over dotted lines labeled witness. I recognized the tall man in the army jacket flipping through file folders, retired attorney according to his pocket badge, though his license expired 3 years earlier. He avoided my stare. Miss Opal led me to the study. Locked drawers had been forced open. Antique coins lay scattered, appraisal tags still attached. A deputy bagged them, reading serial numbers into his recorder. On the desk sat a laptop logged into Daddy's bank portal. Balances displayed, transfer window open. Harold's instincts had been dead on. A living room heist wrapped in a birthday bow. Back on the porch, an investigator photographed Daddy's medic alert bracelet. It wasn't his, too new, tag etched with a phone number we didn't recognize. Cassandra Googled it. The line traced to a private elder care agency 3 counties over, address linked to multiple financial abuse complaints. My stomach twisted. The silver-haired toastmaster, real name Richard Falk, self-styled legacy planner, was led to a cruiser. He spotted me, flashed a smile too smooth. Just helping your father safeguard his assets, he called. The deputy shut the door mid-sentence. An hour later, with statements given and strangers loaded into patrol cars, the yard fell silent. Daddy's breath fogged in the cold. Harold draped his own coat over him. "We're taking him home with us tonight," he told the sergeant. The officer nodded, scribbled an approval on a clipboard. Inside the SUV, Daddy squeezed my fingers. "Thought they were church folks," he murmured, eyes wet. "Kept saying you'd be late. Needed to sign gifts early." Guilt pricked me. I had been late indeed. Late to see how isolation makes room for predators. We drove through blank countryside until Daddy dozed, head resting on Cassandra's shoulder. In the mirror, Harold met my gaze. "We'll lock this down," he said. "Lawyers in the morning. Real ones." But as the farmhouse lights shrank behind us, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. A muffled voice hissed, "You think you won tonight? Paperwork's worthless without signatures, and we can still get those." The call ended. First Light found us in a conference room at Miles and Henley, a small-town firm known more for probate paperwork than legal theatrics. Exactly what we needed. Harold sat beside Daddy, who cradled a thermos of sweet tea like a stress ball. Across the table, attorney Jillian Henley flipped through a folder of photographs the deputies had emailed overnight. Blank power of attorney forms, forged notary stamps, screenshots from Daddy's bank portal. She looked up, jaw tight. "Mr. Carter, you were half an hour away from signing everything you own to a Shell charity. Lucky for you, Shell paperwork isn't worth the ink until notarized signatures land on file. But they'll try again. Different house, different notary." I thought of the late-night call, that hissed promise. We can still get those signatures. A chill ran through me. Mark produced Daddy's safe deposit box key. Found this taped under a drawer the scammers ransacked. Jillian phoned the bank manager, set an emergency visit for noon. If a fake will exists, it'll be there. At the bank, the vault smelled of metal and peppermints. Daddy's box held war medals, faded love letters, and a fresh manila envelope stamped "Last Will and Testament" in modern laser print. Jillian slid it open. Inside, a will dated 2 weeks earlier naming Falk. Legacy Fellowship Trust as sole beneficiary, signed in Daddy's shaky scrawl, witnessed by the same Polo Crest attendant and the retired attorney in army jacket. Daddy squinted. "That's not my signature." Jillian compared it to a 2013 deed he'd signed. Loops wrong, baseline wobbly. Even if it matched, witnesses are beneficiaries' agents. Illegal. She photographed every page, slid the original into an evidence sleeve. Next stop, courthouse. Jillian filed a petition to invalidate unknown instruments, essentially freezing Daddy's estate until authenticity was proven. She requested an emergency guardianship order giving Harold temporary authority over Daddy's financial decisions while investigators worked. The clerk stamped everything in triplicate, a hearing set for the following morning. We returned to Daddy's farmhouse with locksmiths in tow. They swapped every deadbolt, installed a video doorbell, and removed hidden cameras. Jillian's tech contact detected, one in a smoke detector, another inside a clock facing Daddy's recliner. Savannah, now back in town with Mark, cataloged valuables into a spreadsheet for insurance. Miss Opal, shaken but resolute, brewed chow soup and insisted Daddy eat 2 bowls. By dusk, the gravel lane filled with brake lights, local news crews tipped off by scanner chatter. Jillian stepped outside, issued a curt statement. Family safeguarding elder from exploitation, no questions. Reporters tried anyway. Did the family overreact? Why did the victim's daughter leave the party early? I shut the door on their lenses. Inside, Daddy dozed, but Harold inspected every window latch. They got in once with invitations, he muttered. Next time could be crowbars. Jillian assured him sheriffs would run extra patrols and that Falk, the mastermind, now faced felony charges, attempted exploitation of a vulnerable adult. Later that night, my phone pinged. An encrypted email from an anonymous address, video attachment. I clicked. Footage showed the farmhouse hallway, our arrival, my purse on a chair. A gloved hand rifled through it, extracted my driver's license, held it to the camera, then replaced it. Caption: We already have all we need. Timestamp: night of the party, 7:12 p.m. Harold forwarded the file to Jillian and Turner. Turner called minutes later. They're dangling intimidation so you'll drop charges. Don't. He advised relocating Daddy to our house temporarily. Sheriff escort arranged for dawn. We loaded Daddy into the SUV before sunrise, leaving lights blazing to suggest occupancy. Harold followed in Mark's truck, hauling Daddy's favorite rocker and a box of photo albums. Halfway to our state line, a black sedan tailgated, then passed. Driver hidden behind tinted glass. Harold recorded plate numbers. Turner traced them to a rental in Falk's name. By the time we reached home, Jillian had filed for a temporary restraining order against Falk and Associates. The judge rubber-stamped it. Service was electronic. No chance for signature tricks. At the emergency guardianship hearing next day, Falk's attorney tried a new angle. The Carter children are leveraging paranoia to seize control. Jillian responded by projecting the video of my purse being violated onto the courtroom screen. Gasps fluttered like startled pigeons. The judge granted Harold guardianship immediately, barred Falk from 500 feet of Daddy, and set a trial date to invalidate the forged will. We stepped onto the courthouse steps under gray winter sun. Reporters crowded, but Jillian raised a hand. The law favors sunlight, she said. We intend to keep every transaction in daylight. Cameras snapped, headlines formed. Daddy squeezed my hand. Lucy next birthday. Quiet cake, just family. I smiled, though wariness lingered. Falk hadn't spoken his last word. Predators seldom retreat quietly. 3 days after the guardianship order, Deputy Flores delivered a thumb drive marked Property of Tri-County Gas. It had been mailed anonymously to the sheriff's office with a sticky note. For Lucille Carter, check the 7:12 p.m. timestamp. We gathered around Jillian's laptop. Harold, Daddy, Mark, Cassandra, even Miss Opal clutching her prayer beads. The first file showed a nursing home hallway hours away in Charleston. A frail woman in a wheelchair signed papers while the same silver-haired Richard Falk hovered, pen poised like a dagger. Beside him stood the polo crest attendant, smiling at the security camera. The next clip, our farmhouse foyer, 7:12 p.m., captured the gloved hand rifling my purse. The third clip? Another elder, this time a widower, lured to a church basement signing away mineral rights. Jillian's face hardened. This is pattern evidence, gold for the prosecutor. She emailed Turner. Within the hour, he looped in a state task force on elder exploitation. We weren't just protecting Daddy anymore. We were cracking open a network. Still missing was the crooked notary whose stamp legitimized Falk's forged documents. Jillian traced the commission number. Laurel Meeks, license renewed at a county fair 2 towns over. A phone call to her listed address bounced. Utility records showed the meter inactive for weeks. Then, Harold remembered a flyer he'd spotted at a gun show last month. On-site notary, We Travel. Same name. Saturday morning, Harold and Mark drove to that exact gun show lot, sheriff's plane car close behind. Harold, in his old medic jacket, approached a shabby trailer with a handwritten sign, Notary inside, cash only. Inside, Laurel sat behind a folding table, embossing seals on blank pages, Mark recorded. Harold slid Falk's forged will across the table. Recognize your stamp? He asked. She froze, eyes darting. Deputies stepped in, cuffs clicked. In her duffel bag, they found a stack of pre-sealed pages, 6 IDs, some live, some stolen. The arrest added a fresh felony count to Falk's docket. That evening, Turner called. Laurel flipped. She says Falk paid her $200 per signature plus a finder's bonus for bringing new seniors. He paused. She also claimed Falk has an insurance angle. Life policies taken out on elders after paperwork clears. My stomach lurched. State investigators subpoenaed Falk's email server. A forensics tech uncovered PDFs labeled beneficiary spreadsheet, ages, health notes, policy numbers, projected death dates. Daddy's name sat beside a policy opened 6 weeks earlier, beneficiary line blank. Pending signature, no doubt. News broke fast. Local TV flashed Falk's mugshot, linking him to at least 8 pending probes. The reporter thanked an unnamed daughter who trusted her instinct. My phone lit with calls from strangers. Can you help me check my mom's paperwork? Within days, Railings Fund's inbox overflowed with pleas. Jillian set up a free clinic. Retirees clustered at folding tables, volunteers scanning wills for suspicious stamps. Cassandra coordinated appointments. Mark brewed gallons of church basement coffee. But predators bite back. A letter arrived with no return address. Inside, a single page, Daddy's photo taped to the center, red marker circling his face, the words "not over" scrawled underneath. Mark wanted deputies. Harold wanted locks. Jillian wanted calm. I chose sunlight, posted a photo of the threat, blurred, on social media, captioned, "When criminals threaten seniors, we publish receipts." Support poured. Packages of doorbell cameras, donations for legal fees, a retired Marine offering nightly patrols. The facade of fear cracked. Public glare is a disinfectant. Court day for the will invalidity hearing dawned rainy. Falk appeared via video, orange jumpsuit stark against cinder block walls. Laurel testified first, voice trembling but clear, detailing how she'd notarize blanks, slip them to Falk, collect her cash. Prosecutor played the nursing home footage. Jurors winced. Jillian entered the beneficiary spreadsheet, the policy list, the purse rifling clip. Daddy's medic alert bracelet turned out to be a disguised GPS tracker linked to Falk's phone. Evidence sealed the intent. When Jillian rested, Falk's lawyer rose only to mutter, "No questions." Momentum thundered like a gavel. Judge Barrett invalidated the forged will on the spot, extended the restraining order to life, and referred Falk for federal indictment on mail fraud, wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy. Courtroom spectators, mostly seniors from our clinic, broke into applause the bailiff couldn't quite suppress. Outside, cameras swarmed. Jillian announced a civil suit seeking restitution for every victim. Railings Fund would manage disbursement. Reporters asked how we felt. I squeezed Daddy's hand and said, "Today, the law wrote the thank you note my father deserved." Yet just when victory tasted sweet, Turner pulled me aside. "One loose thread," he whispered. Falk used shell companies to hide policy premiums. The money trail leads to an offshore account, and the person listed as co-signer is Harold. My breath hitched. Turner hurried on. "Likely identity theft, but it means the bank may freeze your accounts until we untangle this." A chill ran down my spine when Agent Turner mentioned Harold's name on those offshore wires. If Falk had managed to spoof Harold's identity once, what other doors might that forged signature have opened? And worse, what if someone inside our circle had helped him find the keys? Back at the house, Jillian spread printouts across our dining room table, flow charts of shell companies, arrows sketched in red from Daddy's forged charity trust to a Bahamian bank called Bridge K Holdings, then onward to premium payments on life insurance policies. One signature appeared again and again, Harold T. Carter. Harold studied the documents, jaw clenched. "I've never heard of Bridge K," he said quietly. He slid his driver's license forward. "Compare the loops. That's not my handwriting." Jillian nodded. "Forgeries, but sophisticated. They scanned a clean sample and built digital stamps." She eyed me. Who had access to Harold's signature? My thoughts ricocheted. Mortgage files, church donation receipts, those holiday greeting cards we mailed each year, lists with addresses, signatures in blue ink. But only one person outside the family had handled all our documents lately. Pamela Green, Daddy's longtime bookkeeper. I'd trusted her with tax folders, bank statements, even blank checks when Daddy couldn't sign. She hadn't been at the party. She said a flu kept her home. Now suspicion spread like ink and water. We needed proof. Jillian called Turner. He arranged a warrant for Pamela's office. Meanwhile, Mark volunteered to sift our home computer backups. Late that night, he shouted, "Mom, come look." On our shared cloud drive sat a folder labeled Pam Backup, copies of scanned checks dating back 10 years, including Harold's signature sheets he'd signed for refinance paperwork. Metadata showed they'd been downloaded 2 months before the party. Morning brought deputies to Pamela's tidy bungalow. They seized her desktop, found encrypted emails between her and Falk, subject lines, new SIG sample, policy premium schedule, moving funds Bridge K, H.T. Carter. Confronted, Pamela crumbled. Dad's generous Christmas bonuses had stopped during the pandemic. She'd fallen behind on her own mortgage. Falk promised big payoffs for little paperwork favors. She never thought it would hurt the Carters, she sobbed. Daddy's mild dementia made him, in her words, an easy template. The deputy's reader writes, Jillian briefed Turner, forged signatures, insider funnel, international accounts. The feds now had the missing conspiracy link. They froze Bridge Kai Holdings, flagged every policy tied to Harold's name. Our personal bank did lock our checking for 24 hours, but once Turner's affidavit arrived, the hold lifted. Harold exhaled for the first time in hours. Still, betrayal cut deep. Pamela had spent Easter dinners at our table. Daddy once paid her son's college application fees, Cassandra raged. Mark paced. Harold sat silent. Daddy, hearing the news, simply said, "Trust is a chair. You sit until it breaks." We poured our hurt into action. Jillian drafted civil claims against Pamela for restitution. Railings Fund set up a victim advisor hotline. News crews revisited the story, now retitled Inside Job. Bookkeeper betrays nonagenarian. But Falk, from county jail, filed a motion to dismiss charges tied to offshore wires, claiming he was the victim of Pamela's falsified documents. Jillian laughed, a short, sharp sound, but prepared for his maneuver. She needed ironclad evidence of collusion. Turner suggested a sting, offer Falk a plea deal if he named overseas partners. In recorded calls from jail, Falk bragged he could prove Carter's family forged their own papers to steal the spotlight. Perfect, self-incriminating lies for the jury. Meanwhile, Railings Fund's caseload tripled as other elders came forward. Cassandra coordinated volunteers, Harold drove Daddy to memory care evaluations, and I traveled to senior centers giving talks titled Signatures, Scams, and Standing Up. Each time I held up Harold's forged stamp, the audience gasped. Each time I finished, someone handed me another story of hidden predation. A week before the federal indictment hearing, Turner phoned with triumph. Bridge K turned over ledgers. Falk's fingerprints and Pamela's are all over wire confirmations. The case was bulletproof. That night, Daddy dozed in his rocker, winter rain tapping the windows. Harold joined me on the couch, clasping my hand. "Chair's broken," he said, echoing Daddy, "but we'll build a sturdier one." I nodded. The federal courthouse in Columbia loomed like a marble cliff, flags snapping in February wind. Inside, oak benches creaked beneath reporters, advocates, and a half-dozen seniors wearing Railings Fund buttons. Daddy sat beside Harold in the gallery, blanket tucked over his knees. Jillian stood at our table, stacks of exhibits fanned like playing cards. Across the aisle, Richard Falk lounged in his suit, prison orange traded for navy pinstripes on a one-day furlough, eyes glittering with the smugness of a gambler who believes he still owns an ace. Judge Herrera entered. Deputies called the room to order. First motion. Falk's petition to dismiss all counts tied to Bridge K wires on grounds that I had coerced my father into retaliatory legal action. His new counsel, a sharp-jawed litigator named Stedman, rose with theatrical sighs, painting me as a fame-hungry daughter staging a coup. On the projector, he flashed news clippings, my senior center lecture poster, even Savannah's viral ladder safety stream. Ms. Carter leveraged public hysteria, he declared, to seize her father's estate and build a personal brand. The gallery hissed. Jillian objected. The judge allowed a brief voir dire of the accusation, warning both sides to keep it tight. Pamela Green took the stand first, palms trembling around a styrofoam cup. Under Jillian's gentle questions, she recounted every forged transfer, every encrypted email Falk sent, every cash envelope slipped under her wiper blades. Then Stedman rose. "Ms. Green," he purred, "did Miss Carter ever pressure you to fabricate evidence against my client?" Pamela blinked. "Lucille? Never. She trusted me until the deputies showed her my emails." Stedman tried another tack. "Who invited Mr. Falk into the Carter household?" Pamela hesitated, guilt, shame, then answered, "I did. He approached me after a Rotary Club talk on elder finance." Her voice cracked. "I was drowning in debt. He promised quick money, said it was victimless." Stedman's jaw tightened. "So you initiated contact." "Yes, and I'll regret it forever," Pamela whispered. Jillian redirected, playing the jailhouse recordings where Falk bragged he could pin the wires on Harold Carter or that soft-headed bookkeeper. Pamela wept as her own name punctuated his derision. The jurors flinched. Next, Jillian called Agent Turner, who authenticated Bridge K's ledgers. Falk's login, Pamela's two-factor texts, Harold's forged e-signature inserted by the same IP used to draft Daddy's sham will, metadata smoking hotter than any gun. Stedman, cornered, tried Plan B. depict me as controlling. He requested to question me. Judge Herrera allowed 5 minutes. On the stand, I felt every camera lens. Stedman began politely, then lunged. Isn't it true you convinced your father he faced imminent danger, orchestrated police intervention to vilify Mr. Falk, and then leveraged media coverage to promote your fund? I kept my voice even. I convinced my father of nothing. My husband observed irregular medical care and missing valuables. I called 911. The rest is documented. He waved Savannah's ladder video. Publicity, fundraising, lucrative, wouldn't you agree? Fundraising that now pays legal aid for 33 seniors Falk targeted, I replied. If helping them is lucrative, I'll take the label. Stedman's frustration flickered, nothing further. Back at counsel table, Jillian whispered, he's swinging at shadows. After recess, the judge ruled, motion to dismiss, denied, evidence against Falk. Clear, convincing, and untainted by coercion. Trial date set, bail revoked. Deputies cuffed Falk. His grin finally cracked. Outside, microphones sprouted like dandelions. Jillian issued a single statement. Today's ruling proves sunlight defeats shadow schemes. Reporters pressed me for comment. I raised the brass-billed others up ladder pin on my lapel. Predators counted on silence, I said. We answered with voices, paperwork, and community. That night, exhaustion hit like a storm. Daddy slept in Harold's recliner, oak rocker creaking under his slow breaths. I brewed chamomile, hands shaking, not from fear but from adrenaline ebbing after weeks of alert. Harold joined me on the porch, moonlight silvering the yard cameras. Trials in 60 days, he murmured. Think nerves can hold? Railings are solid, I answered, echoing Savannah's words. Yet deep inside, a knot remained. Sentencing might end Falk's chapter, but seniors everywhere still faced quieter predators. Mark stepped outside, phone in hand. Mom, look. A hashtag trended, Shonos signed safely, strangers sharing notarization tips, tagging Railings Fund. Among them, a message from a banker in Ohio. Launching free signature verification drives, inspired by Lucille Carter. Tears blurred the screen. Impact rippled wider than any courtroom, but an email pinged from Turner. Bridge K had sister accounts in Cyprus, funds unknown. We're tracking, but money moves fast, he warned. 3 weeks before Falk's federal trial, Agent Turner rang at breakfast. Brace yourself, Lucille. Cyprus just flagged a 2019 transfer, $230,000 from Bridge K Holdings into an account under the name Carter Heritage Antiquities Limited. Address lists your father's farmhouse. My spoon froze over oatmeal. I'd never heard of that company, but the sum matched Daddy's appraisal for his most prized possession, a Revolutionary-era pocket watch passed down 6 generations. Harold's face blanched. The watch had vanished the night of the party. We'd assumed it was still hidden in the ransacked study. Turner continued, Interpol believes the watch was sold on a darknet auction last month. We have bid logs, handle Clock King 78, shipping from South Carolina. Jillian, looping in by speaker, said quietly, if we retrieve it, provenance will floor the jury, shows motive and interstate trafficking. First lead. A freight forwarding warehouse in Charleston used by Clock King 78. Turner got a warrant. Harold and I drove down with deputies. Forklifts beeped between steel racks. In a back office, customs forms revealed parcels routed to a private collector in Munich. The Charleston address belonged to a logistics broker who stored outgoing packages in Unit B-17. We rolled up the bay door. Inside sat crates labeled vintage watch parts, low value. Harold pried open the smallest, nestled in bubble wrap. Daddy's watch, silver case engraved to Thomas Carter, 1781, my breath caught. Deputies photographed every angle, sealed it as evidence. The broker, confronted, claimed ignorance. He'd been hired via email by Laurel Meeks. Her plea deal suddenly looked shaky. Back home, Jillian arranged a press release. Historic family heirloom recovered in international fraud case. Media frenzy reignited. Falk's counsel filed a motion to suppress unduly prejudicial publicity. Judge Herrera denied it. Defendants' own acts created the story. But another storm brewed. That evening, a burner phone slid under our porch door. Screen displayed a single text from an unknown number. You got the watch? Want the rest? Drop charges, or next family heirloom meets a hammer. Attached was a photo of Daddy's Civil War letters, pages torn, edges singed. My heart pounded. Those letters were locked in the farmhouse safe we'd emptied, but clearly someone still had access. Maybe copies. Maybe the originals stolen earlier. We called Turner. He advised reinforcing security and laying a trap. Savannah suggested using her live stream reach, invite anonymous tips, offer reward funded by Railings donations. Jillian approved. Transparency had helped us before. We crafted a post. Historic letters missing. Help us protect elder history. Confidential tip line below. Within 24 hours, an email arrived from Watcher with Wings, the alias that mailed the Tri-County thumb drive. Tip. The letters were stashed in a storage facility 2 towns over, unit rented under Pam's Pantry Co. Deputies raided. Inside, we found boxes of memorabilia, Daddy's letters, another victim's Purple Heart medal, a widow's photo albums. Pamela, from county lockup, confessed she'd hidden items as insurance if Falk abandoned her. Evidence mountain grew, but Falk's lawyer kept swinging. He subpoenaed me to produce Railings Fund's financials, implying misappropriation. Jillian preempted with an audited report, every penny public. Opposing counsel pivoted, filed to disqualify Jillian for media grandstanding. Judge laughed that one out. Counsel's advocacy shines in daylight, motion denied. Yet nerves frayed, Daddy's anxiety spiked. He hated cameras, craved peace. Harold and I decided to bring him to the coast for fresh air before trial. Sheriff provided escort. Savannah documented road safety tips, flipping predators' drama into teachable moments. 2 days into respite, Turner called Seaside. Interpol traced Bridge Kai's founders, Falk and a British expatriate named Edward Bryce, alias Clock King 78. Bryce, cornered at a Munich watch expo, offered extradition in exchange for leniency. His statement fingered Falk as mastermind and revealed another bombshell. A sealed file labeled Plan B, Carter Daughter. It contained social media screenshots, public records, notes on me, and a draft email framing me for tax fraud. Bryce admitted Falk planned to leak it if trial turned south. That's attempted witness intimidation, Jillian said, slamming her briefcase. She filed new charges the next morning. Judge Herrera merged them, granted prosecution an extra hour for opening arguments. Trial week dawned crystal cold. Courtroom packed, front row survivors clutching returned heirlooms, news crews shoulder to shoulder. Daddy seated proudly wearing his recovered watch. Falk entered in shackles, smug long gone. Prosecution opened with a timeline, forged banquet, stolen artifacts, offshore laundering, intimidation plan. Bryce, flown in under guard, testified with icy precision. Pamela corroborated every money transfer. Forensic experts mapped IP addresses to Falk's laptop and burner phone. Defense tried last-minute theatrics. Claimed Bryce lied for a deal, Pamela for revenge. Jillian rose, produced the watch, the letters, the medic alert GPS tracker. Objects don't lie, she said, voice ringing. Jurors leaned forward. After 4 days, verdict came swift. Guilty on all counts: wire fraud, mail fraud, identity theft, elder exploitation, conspiracy, witness intimidation. Sentencing set for 60 years maximum. Judge remanded Falk to federal custody immediately. Outside, winter sun felt warmer. Reporters asked what's next. I held up the tiny watch, ticking softly. We rebuild trust, one heirloom, one signature, one railing at a time. Sentencing day broke clear and cold, courthouse steps glistening with frost. Inside, the gallery filled with familiar faces, victims whose heirlooms were still tagged in evidence bags, volunteers in railings fund buttons, a line of deputies standing shoulder square in solidarity. Daddy wore his pocket watch. Its ticking steadied my pulse better than any meditation app. Judge Herrera entered, robe sweeping like a gavel in motion. Falk rose in shackles, thinner now. Arrogance leached away beneath fluorescent light. The bailiff called the case. Prosecution recommended 57 years plus restitution for all identified victims. Falk's lawyer pled for mercy. A misguided entrepreneur, not a predator. The judge's eyes didn't flicker. Victim impact statements followed. Pamela spoke first, voice husky. I betrayed trust for money and became a prisoner long before these cuffs. Tears rolled unchecked. An 83-year-old veteran recounted how Falk's forged policy nearly cost him his home. Then it was my turn. I faced Falk. You thought signatures were just ink, I said, words clear, calm, but they're promises. Handshakes across generations. You stole promises. I held up the recovered letters, edges still singed. We rebuilt them with daylight and documentation, and we'll keep building, long after this sentence is stamped. Judge Herrera delivered the numbers. 55 years federal plus $2.8 million restitution. Immediate implementation of a victim trust funded by seized assets. Falk's shoulders sagged. The courtroom exhaled. Justice doesn't erase harm, but it stitches a seam. 3 weeks later, the South Carolina legislature invited me and Jillian to present the Guardian Signature Act, a bill requiring real-time notary verification and mandatory elder fraud training for financial professionals. Savannah streamed our testimony. Railings followers flooded representatives with support emails. The bill passed both chambers faster than pundits predicted, unanimous in the Senate, a smattering of abstentions in the House. The governor signed it on the Capitol steps, handing Daddy the ceremonial pen. He tucked it beside his watch. Railings Fund bloomed. National banks copied our free signature audit clinics. Eli coded a browser plugin that flags suspicious power of attorney templates. Universities asked him to guest lecture at 16. Cassandra oversaw a grant that outfitted 50 nursing homes with secure document lockers. Mark led monthly paper trail patrols, volunteers visiting shut-ins to review mail for red flag offers. Miss Opal ran the hotline, greeting each caller with, "Railings here, let's keep you upright." Daddy's 90+1 birthday arrived in early spring. No tuxedos, no strangers, no shell charities, just family and neighbors who knew his middle name. Harold grilled catfish on a refurbished cast-iron smoker. Savannah decorated the front porch with hand-painted wooden railings. The grandkids had stamped with bright palm prints, red for love, blue for loyalty, green for second chances. At dusk, we gathered under string lights. Daddy cleared his throat. Conversation fell quiet. "Last year," he said, patting the pocket watch, "I thought my story was finished. Turns out there was another chapter, and better editors." Laughter rippled. He lifted a glass of sweet tea, to railings sturdy enough for all of us. We sang Happy Birthday, off-key but wholehearted. After cake, Harold and I strolled to the end of the lane where a new cedar post bore a brass plaque. "This property protected by community, EST 2025. Community, not alarm systems, had saved us. On the porch steps, Savannah handed me a small box. Inside lay Pamela's styrofoam cup, now cast in clear resin, stamped with the railing's logo. A reminder, Savannah said, that broken things can become warnings, and then tools. Before we left, Daddy beckoned me aside. "Lucy," he murmured, "people will still try climbing without railings." His weathered hand clasped mine. "Keep building 'em. I promised." Weeks later, an email from Interpol confirmed final repatriation of the last stolen artifact, a widow's locket, returned during an amnesty window we helped create. She wrote a thank you note, sealing it with a photo. The locket on her granddaughter's neck, shining in June sun. I saved that photo next to one of Daddy under the porch lights, birthday candle glow soft on his cheeks. 2 images. Proof that resilience, once sparked, travels far. So here's my final toast, friends. From the woman who learned the hard way that signatures are sacred and railings are lifelines. May your documents be guarded, may your elders be honored, and may every push you face become the step that lifts you and someone near you just a little higher. Thank you for climbing with us. Stay safe, sign wisely, and keep building railings.